Hey decision makers, today's episode is sponsored by Anchor. If you haven't heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to start a podcast. Let me explain. One, it's free. Boom. Amazing right off the bat, right? Two, there's a creation tool that allows you to edit your recordings right on your phone or computer. If what has stopped you from starting a podcast is that you think it would be too complicated, Anchor makes it easy for you to publish your first episode today, even if you're not techie. Number three, Anchor will distribute your episodes for you at a click of a button. The moment I hit publish, I'm on 9 different platforms, including Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, and many more. Number four, the other amazing thing about Anchor is that you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, meaning you can start making money from your podcast on day one. Anchor is everything you need to start a podcast in one place. With that being said, if you have ever wanted to start a podcast, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey decision makers, if you've ever told yourself or anyone that you love that I'm just not a good sleeper, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Deep Dive into Health podcast, where each month we dive deep into a health topic such as sleep, productivity, sex, and diet, to name a few, with the goal of becoming the best version of ourselves with daily interviews. Now, before we get started, repeat after me. I play all out. I see opportunities where others see impossibility. I contribute to something bigger than myself. I stay focused and take massive action. I am unstoppable. I am a decision maker. Hey decision makers, today's episode is brought to you by Audible. If you haven't heard of Audible, it's the easiest way to listen to audiobooks. If you don't have an Audible account currently, you can get a free audiobook today and a 30-day free trial to Audible as well. If you don't like it, which I doubt it, you can cancel before the 30 days are up and still keep the book. Isn't that amazing? There's a huge range of titles available, but I highly recommend you read Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's the closest thing to a must read. Learn an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. Audiobooks are a great tool. We're constantly on the move, right? Well, with Audible, there's no need to sit down. You can listen while you're driving, exercising, taking a shower, pretty much anything. My favorite is while I'm doing chores around the house, like cleaning dishes. I honestly now look forward to putting clothes away because it's my time to learn. Another great thing about Audible is the ability to listen across several devices without losing your spot. I don't know about you, but I hate when I lose my spot in my book. Get your free audiobook and start your free 30-day Audible trial by going to audibletrial.com/John. Once again, that's audibletrial.com/YOHN. All right, decision makers, before we kick into today's episode, I have a special gift just for you. For many years, I learned. I would read books and take courses, but my life was still the same. Over and over, I would hear the quote, knowledge is power. And then one day I heard Tony Robbins say, knowledge is not power. And it hit me like a lightning bolt. Knowledge is not power. It's what you do with that knowledge and the actions that you take that will change your life. It took me years, but now I have an action-taking system, and my life has never been the same. I believe this will change your life too. Go get your free action-taking system at johndiaz.com. Again, that's YOHNDIAZ. Once again, that's YOHNDIAZ.com and download your free gift. Oh, and you'll also receive a weekly email with a summary of what the episodes for that week are going to be all about. Hey decision makers, and welcome to the Dive Deep into Health podcast. My name is John Diaz, and today we are with Erica. Erica is a holistic health and mindset coach and co-host of the podcast. There's a hack for that. She specializes in sleep optimization, natural anxiety management, and stress management for those with autoimmune disease. Erica became a health coach after over a decade of struggling with chronic health issues relating to autoimmune disease, anxiety, and depression. Through her own healing journey, she learned how to heal mind, body, and spirit, and now helps others do the same. As a health coach, she takes a holistic approach to help clients assess all areas of life: nutrition, stress, toxic buildup, movement, daily habits, and mindset, so she can help clients heal at root cause level. No band-aids or quick fixes. Instead, she helps clients make sustainable changes to daily life that creates lasting results. All right, Erica, welcome to the Dive Deep into Health podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. And the first thing that I'm going to ask you is, I want to be able to connect you to the audience. What are you most grateful for right now?
I am most grateful for my freedom. And I know that's a big word, but in my life, I've worked really hard to, there's freedoms that are allotted to me. And then I've also worked hard to, have financial freedom and social freedom in my schedule to kind of live the life that I love. So I'm grateful for that. And I don't take that for granted.
That's amazing. That's one of the things that I also every morning I'm grateful for is like the time freedom that I have, that I can spend time with my kids and my wife, because I've designed my life that way. So I hear you.
It's so valuable. Yeah. It's like, I'd rather have that than, the biggest paycheck in the world sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. And then what are you most excited for right now?
So the thing that's most present for me is I'm going on my very first solo road trip on Friday. I'm going to Angel Fire, New Mexico. I have a love of travel. Before COVID, I used to travel almost every week for my day job. And that is something I've kind of lost this year, of just getting to change up my environment and go explore new places. So Friday, I'm going to Angel Fire, New Mexico. And then every 6 weeks for 1 year, I'm going to take a trip and make sure to like go somewhere new and explore.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, you got to experience the world, right? We have so many things to experience that we forget.
Exactly.
Perfect. So this next part of the podcast is I want to hear your story. I want us to tell us who you were and who you've become. So let's start it off. Can you tell us about who you were before you became this health and anxiety and holistic coach?
Absolutely. So yeah, right now I'm, a holistic health coach who focuses and specializes on sleep optimization and natural anxiety management. And before I landed where I am today, I was someone who was suffering severely from my own chronic health issues, my own poor sleep quality. I identified I was a bad sleeper. I was like, oh, I just don't sleep. Like, that's just not something I do. And I accepted that. I also was incredibly anxious and depressed. So the way that I got to where I am, and I think this is common for a lot of coaches, is that our mess kind of becomes our message, right? We spend all this time healing and trying out new things, experimenting on ourselves. Like, I'm a biohacker. I'm like, hey, I'll try that supplement. I'll try that device. I'll do whatever it takes. Let me just see how I can feel the best that I can. So, my journey really starts over 10 years ago, when I was first, at the time, I didn't know it was an autoimmune disorder, but I've been struggling with an autoimmune disorder for over a decade, kind of thrown around in the world of conventional medicine, and eventually landed on some alternative ways of healing. I worked with my own holistic coaches and healers, and really learned how to hone my skills and just feel better. So that led me to working with others and helping them on their journey. And the sleep and anxiety kind of go hand in hand with what I do.
Of course, no, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. And what was that? What caused you to shift, right? So you were in this state of your life where you were just trying to figure out how can I better my life? But what caused you to shift and say, hey, like, I want to help people?
Yeah. So it was kind of a moment where I was starting to feel better. I was starting to get to the other side of some things. And my own struggles, getting to the other side of my own struggles, led me to see that, hey, there's other people that might be struggling with this as well. So the first part of really getting out there was just, honestly starting an Instagram for my business, which wasn't even a business at the time. It was just like, okay, I know eventually I want to work with people. I had been working with my own coaches. And so I was like, oh, people make money at this. And like, this is really cool. And this is all I want to talk about, right? Health and wellness. So I kind of started doing that, and then shifting my focus to sleep and anxiety management. I worked with an incredible mentor who asked the questions like, what do you want to be known for? And so eventually I use a sleep tracker device called an Aura Ring to track my sleep. I'd had it for a few months, and I was just diving deep into the science and how, and this actually really was the thing that pushed my sleep optimization over the edge. And it helped me learn how to rest and recover and really prioritize my sleep. And so I was just so excited about it. I was talking about it, and I was getting really good feedback from my social media and just people I was talking to, that people were like, oh, that's cool. What's that thing? And how are you sleeping better? What's going on? And so it kind of clicked one day where I was just like, I want to be known as the sleep gal, lady coach, whatever. I haven't figured out the right term for it yet, but, and now just over time talking about and diving into the science of sleep and why we sleep and how we can sleep better. it really has turned me into, people come to me, I get texts from family and friends and clients and everyone. They're just like, hey, I had an hour of deep sleep last night. Like, I'm excited. They want to share that with me, and they want to get more information from me. So that's really, honestly, it was just having this moment of like, I love talking about this and learning about this and using all this stuff on myself. And now I want to shift and focus on helping others optimize their sleep.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so great for anyone listening to the podcast to realize that, right? Like, there's something that sparks joy inside you that you love to talk about. Go and talk about it. Like, someone needs to hear your mess, and turn that mess into your message. And it's so impactful, and you can help someone else, right? Even if you just help one person, right? Like,
exactly.
Sometimes my goal for the podcast, like, I just need to help one person. If I can get the right person to connect with the right expert, like, that was enough. I did something great for the world.
Oh my gosh, we're such kindred spirits, because that's how I got over imposter syndrome and the fear of being seen and sharing my message in the beginning. It's been a while now, but when I first started sharing my story on social media, I mean, it was and I do have like a subconscious fear of being seen. So I was putting myself in this very vulnerable situation. But every time I was like, if I can connect with and help one person, especially with the anxiety piece, because that's something that people usually hide really well. So I was like, if I can just connect with someone who's really struggling, like that one person who hears this, and even if it doesn't help them, maybe 5 years from now, they'll be like, oh yeah, this one thing I heard, it's like starting to make sense now. Mm-hmm. That's worth it. So I love that you said that, because that's exactly what keeps me going. I'm like, I don't need the biggest audience in the world. I just need to connect with and help, the people that I have that divine appointment with, right? The ones that I'm meant to help in my life.
That's awesome. I actually, I connected once with Pat Flynn, and I had a conversation with him, and I asked him, what's the one question you ask yourself the most? And he told me, at the end of the day, I asked myself, did I make a new fan? And I was just like, wow, like, really? That's so. He's like, yeah, I want to make sure that I impact someone's life. So he'll answer like personal questions, or like if you DM him, he'll answer, because he wants to make sure that he can make like just one fan. And I was like, man, that's going one step at a time is so powerful. So I thought I loved it.
I love that. Yeah, the baby steps to big results is what I always say. Because when I look at myself a year ago, the coach I was versus the coach I am now, it's like, if I hadn't just taken those tiny wins, I wouldn't have got, now I look back and it all looks kind of easy, but at the time it was just like, oh, this one step is terrifying, and I'm feeling sweaty. And
of course, and they're frightening. Oh, that's funny. So let's move into the next part. I really want to hear this part. So you decided, hey, I'm going to be a coach, right? But so when you make that jump, you imagine this plan in your head, right? And you kind of hope that it goes like that, but it never does. So what was the original plan, and what obstacles did you encounter along the way?
I'm going to answer this like maybe without directly answering it, but the way that I see obstacles as just an opportunity for evolution. So when I first started, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a business plan. I knew I wanted to make money and like pay my bills, but I didn't really, from a business standpoint, I was pretty naive. Like, I was like, I just know I'm supposed to do this and I'm going to do it. So my plan from the beginning was to evolve and get started and then evolve as needed. And what that looked like was, in the very beginning, I was pretty freshly, not cured. Like, I still feel anxious today. So it's not like I don't have anxiety anymore, but at the time I had gone through this process of finding my alternative natural ways of managing my anxiety. So I was like, I know that if you bring me someone who's super anxious, maybe dependent like on alcohol for numbing their feelings or whatever it might be, I was like, if you bring me that person, I can help them. So in the beginning, I was like, I'm an anxiety coach, and that's all I was. And I was like, I don't even know completely what that means. I had done a lot of work to know how I wanted to feel as a coach. So he's like, I want to feel aligned. I want to feel authentic, whatever it is. So then I just got started, and then I got my first client, and it wasn't anything like I expected. So after that, I was like, okay, well, this worked, that didn't. Next client, let's try these new things. And I'm still doing that today, right? Like, my business today looks very different than it did when I first started. And that's okay. And that's part of the plan, because like one of the mantras I live by is high intention, low attachment. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, I was like set out to have like high intention, and meaning good intentions, like authentic intentions. Like, I know I want to be a coach. I want to help people, but I am unattached to what the outcome is, how the outcome happens, how my business, becomes successful. And then also completely unattached to when everything goes together, right? I wish I could have, started making $1 million in the first month, but that wasn't the case. And that's okay, because it's all part of the process. So like I said, I don't know if that directly answers your question, but the obstacles were many, but they were all just opportunities to evolve and shift into, we're always learning and growing. So
there were stepping stones. I love that. And I took a few things from that, and I want to make sure I share them. One is the importance of reflection, right? Like sometimes we think that we need to see the whole staircase. And I think that's actually a Martin Luther King quote, where we think we have to see the whole staircase to take a step.
Yeah.
It's like, just take one step and
Uh-huh.
just work on that and work on reflecting. Because the more you reflect, the more you'll be able to see what worked and didn't work, and then just do more of what worked and less of what didn't work. And I love that. And with the high intentions, low attachments, it reminds me of being flexible to what brings to the world. A lot of times, even with the same thing that we were talking about planning, right? We tend to think that because we envision this thing and we can plan it all out, all 20 steps, that it's going to work step by step. It's not like just take the actions. Things are going to happen, and just be flexible to what the world throws at you, so that you can make sure to, make the best out of it. That's beautiful. Because I see a lot of people where they're so stuck on their framework or in their structure,
Oh my
that
gosh.
they're stuck there, and they don't realize that the opportunity's right next to them. People are telling them what they need, but they won't take it on. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And
Of course. Yeah,
the
I
last
work with a
go.
lot of perfectionists. So that comes up a lot, where they're just paralyzed. But well, it's not perfect, so I'm not going to do anything. And I'm like, nope, you just keep going.
just push and take action.
Yeah.
And then the last part here of your story, I just want to know, outside of business, right? Like, who have you become on this journey, right? You went from being the person that didn't sleep well, was anxious. Who have you become on this? What have you achieved, on this journey?
Yeah. And my achievements that I that I feel most proud of are real, like nothing that's really quantifiable in this physical reality. It's more of like who I've become internally, right? So I'm a very intuitive, connected, caring human being who is driven by purpose. To be honest, I feel very, very called to be doing the work that I'm doing. And I, talk about evolving, like it's still evolving. And I know sleep and anxiety might not be the last thing I land on, but for now, it's very much how I'm able to connect with and help the people that I can. So yeah, that's who I've become. And I'm proud that I'm able to listen to my intuition, my gut instinct, and then take action on it, right? Because that's the biggest difference with health optimization and entrepreneurship. Like the only difference between like you and me and anyone else who's maybe not doing this work is just taking that action. Because again, it's like not being afraid to do something, and maybe it doesn't look exactly how you want it to, but you're still doing it, and you just keep going. So I'm proud of myself for like going forward, even in the face of fear and whatnot.
Oh, I love that. And I want to connect from the beginning of the story till now. And at the beginning, you mentioned that you had this identity that you weren't a good sleeper or that you were anxious, right? And by the end, right, like now you have a different identity that you created for yourself. And that's been like the big change is being able to realize. And, I love to share this part where I always think that we all know who we want to become. Right. And we know exactly where we are. And I think the only difference and being able to step into those shoes is having the confidence to know that it's possible. Right. And if you can make that shift, that identity shift, like some amazing things happens. And, like, look at your life, right? Like it's so cool to hear your story, because and I wish you guys could see her face. She's just glowing when she talks about this. She's so excited. So just thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So this next part of the podcast is where you can give us some teaching, some breakthrough, some things that changed your life that you can share with us. Right. So what are the top 5 breakthroughs or insights that have helped you specifically with sleep?
Yeah. So this one, I think, always comes as a big shock to people, but sleep optimization is mostly around your mindset and your relationship with sleep. So I can honestly, and I've done this many times, I can shift people into better quality sleep in less than a week just by working on their mindset around sleep. What do they believe around sleep? And then the identity thing is a big thing. Like the first thing we do is like quit saying I can't sleep, because you do. You're all like, everyone sleeps. You may not be getting very good quality sleep. A lot of the times what happens when people are like, I don't sleep, I'm up all night, usually they're just falling into like very short bouts of light sleep, which is not very rejuvenating. Like you need the REM sleep, you need the deep sleep to feel good. So with sleep optimization, check your mindset around it. Like think like, do I say I can't sleep a lot? Do I say I'm a bad sleep? Do I say I don't sleep throughout the night? All those things are, you're creating your reality by saying those words. So that's the first thing I do with people is like, let's just check your mindset around sleep. The second thing with sleep is your health. So by training, I'm a holistic health coach. I'm actually studying to be an integrative health practitioner. So by next year sometime, I'll be able to actually run functional labs for people and check in on hormones, because, if someone's waking up, every, day around like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or something like that, a lot of times there's some sort of hormonal imbalance that's going on. So I'm really excited to be able to bring that lab testing to my clients, just to really bring another level of healing. But your health is so important. Sleep hygiene, though, sometimes it can be pretty simplistic, right? Like taking 30 minutes to turn off your devices before you go to bed, and shifting into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, which is the only way that your body can actually rest, sleep, and detox at night. So just not taking for granted like those little things that you can do. Like, if you're a really high stress person, for the next 7 days, make an intention that for 10 minutes every night before you go to sleep, you're going to just stop and do something for yourself. Even if it's just like talking to your partner or snuggling your puppy, just like taking that time for yourself. And then the next insight I would say is for anyone who struggles with anxiety, like who can't sleep because they're a stressed out, anxious person. And I speak from experience, so no judgment here, but learn how to work with your anxiety as a teacher. It's one of the greatest teachers you'll ever have. I have my own podcast, and today, on November 3rd, an episode just dropped about 5 hacks for managing anxiety. So I talk more about it there if anyone wants to check it out. But basically, your anxiety is an alarm system, and it's here to tell you you're out of alignment. There's some emotions you need to deal with. There's something going on. So your anxiety is not a bad thing. And if your anxiety is keeping you from sleeping, you want to look at it and work with it and not against it. The next one I would say, this one's kind of maybe abstract, but I always like to say, look at the common denominator. This is a little bit of tough love, but the common denominator is you. So if you don't sleep well, you hate your job, you're maybe not happy or fulfilled in your relationship, you feel like all your friendships are fake, there's all these things in your life that aren't working for you. What's the common denominator? Like, start looking inside. So sleep can usually just be a component of a lot of things that are going on. It's just one piece of a very big puzzle. So look at the common denominator. It's very powerful. Do some internal healing work, hire your coaches, whatever you need to do. And then let's see, I think that was 4. So 5, this one is just rest more. Rest is so important. That's what my Aura Ring taught me how to do. I'm a habitually just busy person. I don't take a lot of time to just sit and do nothing. But even on nights when you can't sleep, like this is what I do. I'll just sit there, be like, okay, well, I'm just going to lay in bed and meditate all night. Like, that's my intention. I'm just going to lay here and rest, because even rest and it will give your body enough that you can make it through the next day. But also, chances are, if you intend to stay awake all night sitting in bed, chances are you're going to fall asleep. So rest more. Life is crazy, especially right now. So just be gentle.
I want to recap those, because I know you said you had 5, but I took 7 different notes.
Oops.
So
Got carried away.
that was good, right? So and it was a lot of things that other people haven't said, so I really like that, so that you guys can hear different perspectives, right? The first one that I got was mindset and understanding the words that you use impact how you see sleep. So be careful with your language. Health, taking care of your health, and impact. Sleep impacts your health, and your health impacts your health, and realizing that, right?
Yeah.
Number 3 that I took was sleep hygiene. Even if it's just putting that phone away 30 minutes before, like, it makes such a big difference. Number 4 that I got was some me time, which I guess that could have been with the sleep hygiene. So I see where we slid there, but I think that's so important. I've heard other people, some other people on the podcast have talked about, like, taking a warm bath or reading a book, like just doing something for yourself. And,
Totally.
and it's so important. Number 5 that I took was treat your anxiety as a teacher, right? And I think that's so beautiful, and I think that we should connect it there, because I think a lot of the times we forget that our body can do such amazing things. Like our body
Hmm.
heals itself. Our body does so many things, yet we get in the way. And it's if you could
Yes.
just listen to your body, like it's trying to tell you something, it's trying to coach you, but you're not listening. So I think that was huge. Number six that I took down was being look at the common denominator, which it's you, and look at what you're doing. I think that's
Sorry.
huge. And the last one was rest more, right? And I love the hey, if you're not sleeping, just lay in bed and meditate, and you are gonna fall asleep. Like
Yeah.
that's true.
Hmm.
I love
Absolutely.
that. Perfect. So this last part of the podcast, Erica, is gonna be the lightning round. It's gonna be I'll ask you a few questions. Just give me the first thing that comes to mind, and this will be a quick one. Deal?
Okay. I'll try and be
Awesome.
quick. I'm usually so chatty. I'll keep it short.
No, no, no. Well, you know what? Whatever comes out, that's good. Don't worry about
Okay.
it. So the first one's, what's your favorite quote?
That's a that's a loaded question. There's so many, but
Yes.
I'll share one that I actually just saw this morning, but it's by Byron Katie, and it's I am a lover of what is, not because I'm a spiritual person, but because arguing with reality hurts, or something like that, or it hurts when I
Mm.
argue with reality. So surrender is one of the lessons I'm on this earth to learn in this lifetime. So that speaks to me a lot.
Oh, that's beautiful. That reminded me. Ray Dalio has this equation where it's just like pain plus reflection. No, what is it? Pain plus reality plus determination equals success, or something like that. And
Mm,
it always hit me because I'm so highly optimistic, and I believe that I can achieve anything. And then sure enough, there's things that pop up along the way, and I'm always hit with like, okay, I have to be to a level of realism, have some level of realism, and realize like,
yes,
the world is not going to change based on me. Like, that's a thing that happens. So it's like I always have to look at that. So that was good for me.
totally.
What book has had the biggest impact in your life, and why?
I read all the time, but I think the one that stands out is two by Joe Dispenza, breaking the habit of being yourself, and also supernatural.
Hmm.
And it was the first book that really went into the science behind like how your brain works and the different types of brain waves. And it was actually the thing that woke me up and helped me realize that I was living in a constant state of high beta brain waves, high cortisol, like running around just being anxious. And it was the first time I was like, oh, this isn't how you're supposed to operate. So it was really big in shifting my perspective to like just understand how the brain works more.
I highly recommend both books. They're amazing.
So
Just
good.
the way that he speaks, and she just brings so much science to it. It's things that like I've heard for years Tony Robbins, let's say, but he brings the science back to it, and you're like, oh, well, that makes perfect sense.
Exactly. And that's how I operate. Like, cause especially with the sleep stuff, I'm like, I can give you all like the mindset, whatever, but I'm also going to tell you exactly how sleep works. And so you can understand it. Cause there is science to it, but then there's also this other side of like, it's your relationship to it as well.
I love that. Perfect. No, no, I'm glad you tied those in. That's perfect. All right. Now, the next question is, knowing everything you know now, what advice would you go back and give to yourself when you were first, having problems sleeping, and you had that identity shift of I'm just not a good sleeper.
Hmm. I think it's always be as nice to yourself as you are to other people. I'm a
Mm.
recovering people pleaser, so and I had a very harsh inner critic. So I was really mean to myself, real nice to other people, and I think just that it's like be more gentle with yourself. You're going through stuff.
That's awesome. My wife right now is going through an eczema recovery, and she has an eczema podcast, and
Oh, wow.
she always tells herself be more compassionate. She had
Ugh.
one of the guests tell her that, and she's like, man, I need to be more compassionate with myself. I'm so hard on myself, yet on others like it's different. So I love that connected well. And
Hmm.
last question is, what's the one question you're currently asking yourself the most?
I constantly ask myself, am I doing enough? And it stems from, so much core wounding of like using achievement to feel worthy and whatnot. And I've worked through a lot of that, but it still pops up, right? It's like, especially when you have a mission and you're mission driven and you have your purpose, it's like, well, I want to do all the things I'm supposed to do right now. Like, am I doing enough? But then it's always coming in, being like, be more compassionate, be gentle, and rest more, and being like, this is enough. It's always enough.
Oh, that's awesome. Perfect. No, that was amazing. Well, thank you for that. And just the last part of the podcast, this is where you can share how we can best support you, right? And where could we follow you? What's your community? Tell us more about you.
Yeah, I'd love to connect. I'm most active on Instagram. So my handle is at Erica Allison Wellness. Allison is with one L. My website is ericaallisonwellness.com. And actually, for those of you that are interested in sleep optimization, I have, if you go to the website, there'll be a little opt-in offer. So if you put in your email, you'll get my seven tips for optimizing your sleep environment. So your bedroom is very important, and there's lots of things you can do to just make it your sleep sanctuary. I love that guide, and so feel free to go grab that if you want. I also have my own podcast called There's a Hack for That. So my co-host and I talk about business, life, and health hacks, and I think it's pretty spectacular, so you might enjoy it. And yeah, please feel free to reach out, ask questions. I am taking new clients if anyone's looking for help, or if you just want someone to chat with. I love connecting, so just reach out and say hi.
Oh, that's awesome, Erica. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. Are there any last thoughts that you want to leave us with?
I think that's it. Just I think that be compassionate thing, if you're going through some health stuff and trying to figure out your sleep, just know it's really it can be really complicated. There can be physical and mental stuff going on. So you just kind of have to keep going and find the answers that you need.
Yeah. Do your best, guys. Just do your best. All right, decision makers, let's say thank you one more time to Erica. That was an amazing episode. And I just want to share the top 3 takeaways that I had so that you can start taking action in your life, right? And the first things that I want to talk to, right, is about that identity, right? Having that identity shift. And we kind of talked about it in the episode. But realize who you want to become, right? What shoes do you want to fit in, and start taking action as of that person, right? Once you start doing that, that's huge. And I just thought that was so amazing. So that would be my first tip to you, is just sit down and ask yourself, who is the person that I want to become, and what actions would that person be doing? So that would be the first one. The second thing that I took from her was just reflection, the power of reflection, right? And I know we talked about sleep, but just being able to look back at yourself and see like, what if I'm the common denominator, as she put it, what could I be doing better? What's working and what's not? And the last one that I want to share with you guys that I just thought was really, really impactful and I resonated with was sleep hygiene. Right, we've had a lot of people on the podcast already talk about this. The power of your bedroom, right? The power of the things that you do before bedtime, that routine. Just start looking at how can you make your bed and your sanctuary a better place for sleep. So I highly recommend that you guys go over to her website. I'll put the links in the show notes so that you can check out that free step guide that she has to make your bedroom your sanctuary. I think that's amazing. But with that being said, decision makers, thank you so much for being on today. Thank you so much, Erica, for coming onto the podcast, and I can't wait to talk again. Thank you so much for tuning in. I don't take your time lightly, and I appreciate that you made the decision to listen to the podcast today. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the show, and finally, please take a minute to rate and review the podcast. Once again, thank you for listening, and remember, you are a decision maker, and you are just confidence away.